Welcome to PHP Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 263.
Yeah.
An update episode.
That's right. We love our update episodes because it's our chance to kind of share with you what's going on in our lives.
Shine.
Yeah, we get to share what's going on in our lives with reselling, do some reselling news, some things happening in the reselling world, talk about some BOLOs, and then talk about things we're looking forward to. So, yeah, how are things going, man?
It's crazy busy. So Mike could tell you my house is looking like a hoarder house to a certain point.
Maybe.
I mean, it's not there, but I don't like it. Like, the studio's on my property, but I can, like, even from where I'm at, I can see inventory. So it's kind of bothering me. Now, part of that is if you caught our YouTube, if you check it out, you'll see the link up here that hopefully Mike puts up there. My latest YouTube drop, I had a major Hot Wheels Disney haul, learned a ton, and that didn't set me back, but I've been buying like crazy, and the reason I've been buying like crazy is my strategy is I'm not really gonna do much sourcing for eBay for like the last 2 months of the year. Like, my goal is to have so much inventory that I don't have to spend that time. I can either drop stuff off to my helper, or in the moments of, quiet during peak Amazon, Q4 season, I can just list stuff that I already have.
Yeah, you kind of shift from eBay selling over to Amazon, which is kind of nice because that lowers my competition a little bit at garage sales. There's not definitely as many garage sales as you start moving into the holiday season, colder times. Even here in San Diego, where we have good weather, garage sales start to slow down in the wintertime. But a little bit less competition, not just from you, but I mean, a lot of resellers are doing that move. They're moving over to Amazon. So if you're not an Amazon seller, so if you're like me, you're not an Amazon seller, this is still not a bad time of the year for you, because even though there's a dip in potentially some sourcing opportunities, there's maybe fewer resellers at thrift stores. There might be fewer resellers, doing offer up and doing garage sales, because they're moving over to the Amazon side of things, which is definitely profitable. If you're ungated on things, that's probably where you should be. But if you're a part-time reseller, you could still capitalize on that and make use of Q4, if nothing else, as a sourcing opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So it's there's definitely, and here's the thing, the competition is still there. I'm seeing it more and more. I feel that right now, people, we talk about how there's all these jobs and no one's taking jobs, but I think it's a lot of people just decided to just figure out how to work at home. Right. And which opened up. I'm not saying that's the reason people aren't working and unemployment's and horrible levels. I do think, though, that there's a part of that where people just figured out that, hey, I could kind of, make a little bit more income doing this than trying to go get a 9-to-5. And so I do see it. I see it more. And here's an interesting story. It was interesting to me, but, I've noticed this, and I'm trying to be careful how I say this. But I've gone to thrift stores lately in the last year, and I've been going, but there tends to be attractive people now at thrift stores. So
you're saying like physically attractive?
Yeah.
People? So you're saying like before, like the people at thrift stores were just all busted, but now you've got attractive people going to thrift stores?
Okay. That's what I mean. I'm trying to be careful. But here's the thing. When I used to go to thrift stores before, I mean, it was me, and it was, like, it wasn't people that looked like they were trying to go to the club or go to, they weren't trying to be like TikTok famous or whatever. Right now I go, and it's like all these hipsters and all these, you would think that they're like Instagram people, like, and I'm like, what is going on? Right. Like, what? And we've talked about how thrifting has become more popular. Mm-hmm. So the other day I went to my friend's house. He invited me over, have dinner. And it's been a long time, and his daughter knew that I did reselling, and she was talking to me about it, and she's like, "Oh man, everybody I know does thrifting. Where should I go?" And blah blah. And it was kind of interesting hearing from someone that isn't a reseller of how much they love thrifting, and like they know the ins and outs. They know that stores should not be named isn't a place you should go sourcing. They know about the bins. They know about this, and I'm like, wow, like. There is a lot more competition, right? A couple of weeks ago, I was at a thrift store, and I would say there was probably, I don't know, it was like anywhere from like 40 to 50, like, 20-year-olds just thrifting in the store.
I wonder if that scene is
so old saying that, by the way.
I wonder if that scene is getting the same hate that resellers get, right? Because
there is some of that drama.
Because I was going to say, like, the reality is they're probably not uber wealthy and they want to wear nice clothes. Plus, there's also the moral aspect of it of like giving clothes a new home or giving items a new home instead of going to the trash. But they're obviously not buying non-name brand stuff. They're trying to get the best stuff that they can get. So I wonder if they're getting the same hate of people saying like, you're taking from people who, can't afford stuff, or people the same way that resellers do. I mean, I can't imagine it's the same amount of hate. There might be some, but I almost feel like some people will look at that as like a positive thing. Like, look at the younger generation going and recycling and upcycling, as opposed to look at the resellers trying to, take from the poor to make themselves rich, almost,
No, there has been stuff like that. Now, okay, let me phrase my statement better. There are people that are all dressed up to go to the thrift store. Because usually when you're sourcing, I mean,
is your opinion of dressed up, like, is that just maybe just how people are dressing? Like, because you're like totally like, I'll wear basketball shorts and a t-shirt as opposed to
Adam Sandler does. Okay.
Right. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Okay? Right. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying like, I remember when we went to the Poshmark thing and, people were just wearing like business casual and like nice business, like attire for like a dinner party or something. And you were like, these people are just like super dressed up. I would never dress like this. And I'm like, I think this is kind of normal for a lot of people, but maybe just not like,
but not for a reselling event. That's my thing. Like if I'm going to like a political thing, or if I'm going to like a chamber of commerce, kind of deal. Yeah, of course I'm going to get dressed up for that. But when it's reselling, like that's part of the independence of reselling. And again, please know, I'm not trying to offend anybody out there that if you were going to thrift stores the last 5 years, you weren't an attractive person. What I'm saying is it's a different clientele that's coming through the stores. Right. And I got to tell you, I don't think that's stopping anytime soon now with, sustainability's become more of a thing. And I find that this generation it's funny because you have one group that is very vain, right? It's all like Instagram, TikTok famous. Let's drive our Bentleys. Let's get the most expensive shoes. Let's get everything. But I find there's way more on the other side of, hey, you know what? Let's find what's unique and what's cool that nobody else can find. And that's what you can get through thrifting, right? That's why we do well as resellers, because we find those items that other people can't pick up. So yeah, that wasn't really my update, but anyway, so real quick, I'm done organizing.
Nice.
So
well, are you really?
No. Well, and here I am. What remember last time I was talking about being organized for FBA. So my garage space and everything, I got my station, everything set up. The only reason I got stuff everywhere in here is because I've had major eBay hauls. So once I get sorted through all that process, all that, I'll be organized, and then it won't look like that. But hot items are selling. It's kind of crazy. I'm doing the whole. Did I mention this a lot? I can't remember if it's a conversation with you or if it was on the podcast that I had mentioned that now it's happening where you can buy stuff at a store and by the time you get home, you already sold it. Or actually you buy it within the store and before you check out, that item already sold. Have I talked to you about that?
Yeah.
On the podcast?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So I'm trying to muddle it all. So anyways, last thing, I did get a van, but I didn't buy one. I rented a van.
You decided not to go with the trailer route?
Listen. Okay. Couple reasons why. One is as a reseller, you always buy low and sell high. I'm not going to pay top dollar for a trailer.
Yeah, but that's not. I mean, one, you could have borrowed my trailer, and two,
I could have.
You're not buying anything. You're renting. You're throwing your money away. You could probably spend the same amount you spend in a year or two of renting a van and own a small trailer to use for the next 10, 20 years.
True. But I'm not. Let's put it this way. When I moved and I had to drive the U-Haul, I got lucky that no one saw what happened to that vehicle. Okay. And Mike's like, oh, my trailer.
So you're saying you're not a good driver?
When it comes to larger vehicles that aren't the norm, no. I've shared with you my story about the minivan and how I felt like I was going to open up like a tuna can when I end up in a garage at one time. Right. And so, So I'm just, I can only imagine with a trailer. And here's the thing. I wanted Thanksgiving with Mike not to be awkward. So the last thing I want is to borrow his trailer and have some crazy story how like I didn't put the hitch on right and I was on, Pacific Coast Highway and then ended up in the ocean.
You probably could have rented a trailer from U-Haul though, enclosed trailer, probably a couple $100.
It's not. It's my like.
But I mean like a small one, like a 4 foot by 6 foot trailer, not like a big.
But here's why I got the van. Craziness. I found the van and I'm renting it for the same price as I was last year. Now it's a passenger van, so it's not like a cargo van, but it still gives me a ton of space. And here's the deal. I'm spending $2,000 instead of $4,000. And if I bought something new, I'd be spending like a trailer. I'd be spending $4,000.
Yeah, new, but you like I've showed you used trailers you can get for under $2,000.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm just not a fan of buying stuff that just sits around because I would only use it in Q4.
Right. But then let's say 3 or 4 years from now, let's say you decided you're done with reselling, you sell it for pretty much the same price you bought it for. You'd save a ton of money.
I know. In the comments, I'm going to get skewered. I know. But you know what? I don't want to deal with it.
I mean, I had a conversation with a friend today. He was talking about getting a vehicle and he's like, what do you think about leasing? And I had to like, nicely.
Leasing's an easy one though.
Right. But I kind of feel like it's the same thing. I had to have this conversation and I feel like I was like, man, like you're throwing money away. And I feel like as resellers. So yeah, let us know in the comments below. Like if you had a choice,
you already know what people are going to say.
To rent a van for a short amount of time,
a month and a half,
or spend the same amount of money to buy a trailer that you could pull with the vehicle you already own and use it year after year after year.
I'm just happy I got a van for the price that I wanted.
Good job. Congratulations. I'm proud of you.
All right. What's going on with you, Mike?
Really not a ton reselling wise. Like last week was a huge week for me, OfferUp, and kind of the way OfferUp goes. And part of it is probably just the niches I'm in. I went several months without really using OfferUp. And then so when I jumped on and I was searching the things that I kind of look for, some had built up, right? So I was able to snag all the things that had built up over time. And now that I've been kind of like monitoring it daily for like the 10 to 11 like searches that I'm continuously doing, I'm just not finding the stuff, right? Like it's just, or I find stuff and the prices are too high in the negotiations. So I feel like it's like that with OfferUp. It's up and down. So this week I'm hoping to do some garage sales because it didn't hit this week with OfferUp like it did last week. But still getting listings done, pictures done, which is nice. And sometimes that's the way it is, especially when you're part-time. I mean, I got to remember there's times where I'm like, man, I'm really not getting as much done as I'd like to reselling wise, but I also work full time. I do the podcast and I've got a now 11-week-old baby at home, right? Like there's a lot going on. I'm like, my 90-day total is still doing pretty good. I'm still getting listings done. I have a death pile, so I'm not out, right? Like I'm still grinding. I'm still moving, but it's been too long since I've hit up some garage sales, so I'm ready to do that again for sure.
But here's the thing, the nice thing, and a lot of people commented this on our last episode about why people quit reselling. People were saying, hey, I got out of reselling and now I'm back on Instagram. People were saying this, and you can get back into reselling at any time. It's not like you leave a career and then you can't come back, right? For example, I'm going to have a lot of explaining to do if I try to be an administrator again, right? Like, hey, why'd you leave administration? And you ended up being a reseller for 5 years. I can't say my answer is like, I can't stand politics and I like being my own boss. Like that would never work, right? Because you got to love politics when you're in those positions, because that's all that happens once you get into those positions. And so, but with reselling, all it takes is, right, it's like it's like learning to ride a bike. Right. Even though I haven't really fully learned how to ride a bike, but if I did, I'm sure everyone tells me it's like, it's like you haven't ridden it for years. You just get back on and it's
like
easy.
driving a car.
I don't know. What if you didn't drive a car for 10 years? How would that be?
I mean, you'd have to like get used to the gas pedal. And
with automatic cars, it's easy.
Right. But it's the same thing like with reselling, I think, or even riding a bike. Like you might be a little shaky at first, but yeah, I mean, but don't take that to mean like I'm out of reselling. I'm definitely not out of reselling.
No, we're not saying. No, I'm not saying that.
Garage sales
what I'm saying is, I appreciate the fact that you bring up the point that, hey, life is busy. I have a new baby. I have my career that is more important, and I can dip in and out when I want. Yeah. Right? You have the knowledge base that you can go still to the thrift store at any time, and you're going to be good.
Right.
Right. And you know how eBay works. Now, the interesting thing is, I caught this the other day. I think it was Texas Gal Treasure or somebody. I watched a video the other day about somebody that wasn't doing eBay anymore. And what they said is they would stop doing eBay for a while and they go back to eBay, and it just seemed like it kept getting more complicated, and they just were like, I'm done. And I kind of see that a little bit. Well, we'll talk about that here later on in our reseller topics. But eBay of 5 years ago compared to eBay now, there's a lot of changes. I mean, we're from promoted listings to item specifics to some of the shipping, to the pictures, to just everything. It'd be interesting. Let us know. Those of you who have been selling for a long time and then came back, did you feel that eBay was really, really different and maybe even difficult for you when you came back? So, all right. Hey, before we get to our random stories, I want to say thank you to all of you. We keep getting people that sign up for our membership. And so we got to do that Zoom here pretty soon. We want to say what's up, all of you.
Okay, let's just real quick.
We're gonna hash this out now. So here I've had some things that I've had schedules and I've had things come up, and so Mike has had the same. So remember, we're real people with families that resell, and we're resellers before we're ever YouTubers, before we're podcasters. You guys know that if you follow us on social media, based on how many DMs we don't get back to, so we apologize for that. All right, what are we looking here, Mike?
What about the not this next week, but this one on Wednesday, October 27th?
Wednesday the 27th. Let's do it.
All right. So tentatively, unless anything changes, which we'll let all of those supporters on Buy Me a Coffee know, the 27th, we're going to have a Zoom call, just a short hangout, like a half hour or so, to just hang out with those of you who are supporting us that want to, maybe ask us some questions or just chat about some things going on in the reselling world. It's just a great opportunity to do that. Again, like we always say,
we'll talk about Q4 a little bit.
Yeah. So disclaimer on every podcast when we mention this isn't like we're putting content behind a paywall. This is just a chance for us to say thank you to those who are supporting us. And so, yeah, if you support us on Peerless Podcast, Buy Me a Coffee, Peerless Podcast, it really helps us out. It's what allows us to keep making these podcasts. So we just want to get a chance to hang out and say hi. And sometimes that's all it is, right? It's just saying hi, getting to know some people, learning on what's going on in their reselling world, learning from each other. So it's a ton of fun. We've enjoyed all of them we've done so far.
100%. And love seeing you guys face to face, hopefully one day in real life. So again, buyme.com. Buyme.com.
Yeah. Buyme.com. Everybody has a price.
buymeacoffee.com/pure hustle. Go to the link below. You can just say thank you, buy us a couple coffees. But if you want to do the virtual meetup with us, the best way to do that is sign up for the membership, and then you'll get the messages when we're meeting up. You'll get the Zoom info. And we'll say hello to each other. So thank you again. All right. Random stories, Mike. You got any here?
Yeah, I mean, this one kind of comes up because I just sold recently like some kind of like ham radio, CB radio stuff. And it just reminded me, and I might have already mentioned this story somewhat on the podcast because it happened a couple weeks ago. But if I didn't, or if I did, I'm sorry.
I don't remember you sharing.
Okay, so
maybe I wasn't paying attention.
So ham radio is one of those things that I've kind of thought about getting into a few times over the years, just because it's kind of interesting. But then every time I'm looking into it, it's like, man, it's a lot. And it's like, now there's Twitter. Like, why would I need to do like ham radio? Mm-hmm. But then like with kind of the current climate of culture and all this stuff, it's like, you know what, if something were to happen and you weren't to have access to like social media and things were really bad, like it would actually be nice to be able to like communicate with people still and have like some way of like
War of the World style, or
well, I don't know, right?
Like
but
signs.
I'm not saying anything that's going to get that bad, but like it just would be nice, right? Because I mean, there's been times where like San Diego's lost power for a week, and crazy things happen if the internet were to go down. Can you imagine? So I was like, it might be nice to just have, get my license, kind of figure out how to do it. And so I've sold some ham radio stuff, and I've kind of looked at, playing with it and getting into it and getting my own license for it. And it's funny because we live out like in the boondocks, out in the middle of nowhere. There's like a road that goes up to where we're at, but it's like a half a mile away from any other houses, and people always get lost and end up coming up where we're at, and we have to like turn them around and say like, nope, like this isn't a through road. Well, one day my wife and I are getting home, and I think we had like some Costco stuff, and some guys pull up, and we had to like get out and tell them like, nope, sorry, this isn't, because they were like, is this such and such? And I'm like, no. And then they wanted like, can we go up that road? And it was like the driveway up to like my in-laws house. And I'm like, no, that's just a house up there. And they're like, okay, well, we're we need to check some signals out here where we've only got a half hour left, and we had a ping in this direction. And I'm like, what in the world? And then it clicked. I'm like, I bet you these guys are doing some like ham radio thing. And they were like, can we just like stop right here for a couple of minutes and try and get he said, we need to triangulate our position. And I was like, okay. So we're unloading this Costco stuff, and these guys get out with like just this big equipment. Like one guy's got like a hula hoop with like some wires on it. And other guy's got like a pole with a bunch of other poles on it. And they're like swinging it around with like big old headphones on. And we get inside and my wife looks at me and just starts laughing. And I'm like, I think they're doing like ham radio stuff. And so I asked them, I'm like, are you guys doing ham radio stuff? And they're like, yeah, we're doing ham radio stuff. It's pretty fun. I'm like, yeah, it seems like kind of fun. I guess like they're trying to figure out like a signal. I guess I'm assuming it was some kind of a treasure hunt thing. Like, what do they call those? Geocaching.
Geocaching.
Kind of like geocaching, but like where somebody puts like a transponder and they have to be able to like triangulate the signal where it's coming from type of thing. And I'm assuming it was some kind of competition. But I think like, I don't know if that like made me go, you know what, this isn't for me. Like, it was,
but it's a real, I mean, I know
it's a hobby.
We're part of like the ham, like collectors, like groups and stuff.
But I bring it up because it was like a random thing. Cause like I just sold some stuff and then this happened. And I'm like, there's definitely a market for it. Like these people are into this thing. They want the equipment, and some of them will get like old vintage equipment too. And part of it is, even though they have like you can go on Amazon and get like $30 for like a pretty good like CB handheld thing. And then an antenna is not too expensive, but some people want the really old stuff, even if it's not more powerful and it's not better, but just something about having the vintage. Same thing with like audio, even though vintage audio does have a better quality sound to it if you get the right stuff. So I don't know if there's something there with that with the ham radio too, or if it's just collectors, you know, a guy who's retired or a lady who's retired and they don't have anything else going on. They've got a room, basement or whatever, garage full of ham radio stuff. And so it might be a niche that I want to get into, but it's kind of nice because when I'm getting into a niche, it kind of gives me an excuse to kind of understand it and learn it. And it can almost become a hobby, right? Like just learning the niche becomes a hobby. So I get to kind of scratch that itch of I need new hobbies all the time. I'm always finding new hobbies that I can be like, you know what? I'm going to learn about ham radio. I'm going to learn about the different equipment, what it does, what's valuable, what's not. So it's easier for me to source it and sell it. But then also as I'm doing it, I can decide, you know, is this a hobby I want to try and get into? And then if not, you know, I sell all the equipment and I end up profiting off of it. Right. So sometimes
you'll know what's really good and what's really not.
Right. Exactly. And so sometimes I feel like my hobby is learning other hobbies. I feel like a lot of people are like that I've talked to. But the nice thing is, as a reseller, instead of like what most people do is they go out and they find a new hobby, they learn all about it, and they spend as much money as they can to get all the equipment. And then they move on to a new hobby a few months later. And it's like, that was all waste. As a reseller, I can kind of like get into hobbies and make those hobbies profitable for me. Right. Like now I'm getting a cool collection of vintage tools because I've learned about tools and I'm starting to be able to do stuff around my house because I got all these tools. And so I was able to build a tool collection while also making profit and learning about tools. So, not super random, but just random that as that, like I was thinking again, it was like a couple days. I was like, I should get into ham radio. And then these guys show up with like these giant things and they're swinging them around my property. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm going to do that, but I might still get into ham radio. They seem to be having fun. Man.
You're out there. Now, the interesting thing is that goes along with our last episode where we talked about some people as a result of reselling, they, you know, come across something else that they find more enjoyable, more profitable. And then they do that. So, you know, one day Mike might open his own ham radio store.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But if it does, if I become the go-to ham radio guy doing ham radio podcast, you know, if you did a ham radio podcast, would you do it over ham radio or would you do it over like podcast?
I don't know. I'm sure there's a podcast for that.
If you're into ham radio and you want to like point me in the right direction, let us know in the comments below. That'd be cool.
Okay.
What about you? What's your random story?
So my random story is kind of like reseller topic. And I think both of them are. So I don't know how to put this. So I had an item that I shipped out USPS priority. And it was the typical, you know, tracking didn't update. It didn't show up. And this was back in late September. So the person messages me and, you know, they open a case or like item not received. I check the tracking. It says it's not showing. And I'm like, what is going on? I mean, it literally was like 3 weeks. And so I go to the post office. And what drives me crazy lately about the post office is they pass the buck. That's what I notice now. Before it used to be like you could talk to the supervisor and they had the answers. Now it's like pass the buck. Here's a phone number, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of frustrating. It's just kind of frustrating. And so, you know, I had said, hey, here's the tracking. And the reason I do this is because the tracking on eBay is not anywhere close to the information of the tracking that the post office has, whatever, you know, internally on their computers. So I went and I asked this, hey, I'm just wondering, I shipped this out of San Diego and it says that it's still at the regional whatever warehouse in San Diego. And he gave me a phone number. He told me I'd talk to a living person. I'm like, all right, fine. Took the phone number and I went back. Got on my phone and I call and I'm like, hey, listen, I shipped out this item and I give them the tracking number and they're like, oh, is this the one going to New Hampshire? I'm like, yeah, it's the one going to New Hampshire. So California, New Hampshire, that's pretty far, right? That's across the country. And they said, yeah, so first class mail, these days is taking about 2 to 3 weeks to get to their location across the country. And I'm like, yeah, but I sent this priority. She's like, yes, priority too. I'm like, what? No. I sometimes you wonder if the person you're speaking to understands English, right? Nothing against anybody. I was like, are you sure you know what you're saying?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it seems like how many more things can they have? Like first class sounds like already like as high as you can go. It's like it's first class. Like, no, now we're going to charge extra for something else called priority. Oh, priority is pretty slow. So you can pay extra and get this other service that goes faster.
Yeah. So I asked and I said, so what? So I want to make sure this was sent priority. I spent, $8, whatever, on a padded flat rate envelope to send this item. And she said, yes, those sometimes will take 2 to 3 weeks. And I'm like, do you understand this will kill people's businesses? I started getting a little heated because I'm like, 2 to 3 weeks, that's completely irresponsible. Like first class mail, I understand. So I said, is this in writing somewhere on your website? I'm really at a loss because if it's in your policy, that's fine. Like that's what you guys mean. And I'll go with it and I'll go somewhere else to do my shipping. And so, she said, yes, it is. And she's like, I'll even send you an email. And I'll even give you my contact information and everything. And guess what? I never got an email from the post office or from this person. Right. And so I'm like, did I really expect that email? No. Like,
yeah, maybe you should have said, why don't you just send me an email that says like, hi, like right now. So that way, I have a way of contacting you after the phone call.
Yeah.
Like I'll get off when I receive the hi email.
Oh, and I've done that before, but I was just like, I was done with it. So I went to the website for priority mail and it says, 1 to 3 business days. And I had said, hey, your website says 1 to 3 business days. And 3 weeks is a little more than 3 business days. So she goes, well, look at the alert. And I'm like, okay. So I look at the alert and it says, as a result of the ongoing COVID-19, I'm saying the word. Now we're going to get shadow banned. COVID-19 emergency, certain packages may take longer than usual to arrive. Priority Mail Express and next day service is unaffected.
Yep. So again, they're pushing it back. Like next day is fine. But if it's priority 1 to 3 business days, I mean, that's rough. And I get that like things are hard right now. I'm sure we're going to talk about supply chain and all of that. But like,
bro, we've been doing this for like a year and a half now. Yeah. This isn't like, oh no, a pandemic's going to happen. Like we've been in it.
Yeah.
Year and a half.
Yeah. No,
can we get our act together?
It's a crazy situation. It kind of reminds me of that Seinfeld episode where Seinfeld goes to pick up his car reservation. And they're like, oh yeah, like they put his name like, yeah, we don't have your car. Sorry, we don't have the car. And he goes, but you have my reservation? Yeah, we got your reservation. And you reserved the car? Yeah, but you don't have my car. No, we don't have it. And he's like, I don't think you understand what the word
to me
reservation,
at a car reservation means.
Yeah,
no, that's happened.
A reservation means you've reserved the car, right? Like, and I kind of feel like that with
you
the
almost
priority.
Sounded like Jerry Seinfeld there for a moment.
But like that's kind of the idea, like the priority. And then if you can kind of push it back and go, yeah, you send it priority 3 business days. But 2 weeks. So you might as well send it first class. It's like,
well, then I asked, can I get a refund? I said, hey, is it possible to get a refund, based on the fact that you guys weren't able to fulfill what you stated? And then it says, I'm trying to find it up here on the website. The expected delivery data does not come with a money back guarantee.
Must be nice. I feel like that's like being a weatherman. Like being a weatherman must be the easiest job in the world. All you really have to say is 50% chance of rain. And no matter what, you're right?
Yeah, like, but that's only if you're funded by the government.
Right.
That's it. Like, I'm pretty sure FedEx and UPS would not be able to get away with this.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
And so I've been shipping pretty much most of my packages now, FedEx, and it does cost a little more. So, and I do want to be kind to the post office too. I mean, out of the thousands of packages I've sent, it's only been maybe less than 1% that I've had issues with. Right. But this irked me a little bit. Like, why is it acceptable 2 to 3 weeks? Like, and luckily the buyer, I messaged him. I said, hey, I don't know what's going on. This is what the post office told me. And they were pretty nice about it and said, you know what? I'll wait 2 more weeks for my item. 2 more. So they're going to wait an entire month. Okay. And you know what? I had one more thing. Did I mention the item that I used pirate ship through the UPS? So 2 podcasts ago, I had mentioned how the post office, I sent something to Canada via the post office. It got to customs and it got kicked back to me. And no one at the post office knew why it got kicked back to me. Now, luckily, eBay was super awesome about it. And I don't know what eBay did. I called eBay. I'm like, hey, listen, I sent this over. They kicked it back. Post office can't tell me why. I filled out all information like you guys wanted on your shipping page. Is there any way we could work out, if I could get these funds back? So they refunded me. I think it was like $72 for the shipping. I shipped it UPS. And guess what? UPS arrived on time. No problems. Everything was good to go. Smooth sailing. So just saying, I think there's an argument to be made for, you're getting comments. You know what I'm going to say right now?
Oh, private business?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's competition. It's the same thing with resellers. The fact that there is competition is what allows prices to be low. That's what makes things better for consumers. Once there's no competition, prices and service doesn't have to change, right? So, competition is definitely a good thing. And it's hard when you're in the business and you're being competed against because, we have to do things like now I have to offer free shipping or now I have to offer, returns or all these things that I might not want to do. But think about overall, this is a good thing for the economy, right? It's a good thing for people. Now, there's a point where, people can take competition too far and there's shady things people can do for sure. But the fact that, the UPS and FedEx and these companies, they're fighting. They want the service. They want it, so they're going to do whatever they can to keep a good reputation because if they don't have a good reputation, if they can't deliver on time, people won't use them. They'll use their competitors. And so they kind of have that desire. Whereas something else that like USPS that doesn't necessarily, and again, like you said, for the most part, they do really good, but we've seen a lot of issues through the USPS and it's like, come on, right? Like they really don't have a lot of competition in some areas. Some things can only be sent USPS, right? So if it's going to like a military base or something like that, you don't have an option. And so the fact that there's no option kind of allows them complete control to go, too bad, so sad.
Yeah, that's how I feel right now. I felt completely powerless in the situation. All right. Hey, before we get moving, I want to talk about one of our awesome sponsors, AmericanBubbleBoy.com. I've seen a lot of you buying it and tagging us on Instagram. Please continue to do so. Great company. Use our promo code. Our promo code, if you go to the link below, AmericanBubbleBoy.com, promo code is Pure Hustle Podcast, all lowercase. Pure Hustle Podcast, all lowercase. And they're able to get shipping to you, shipping supplies quick. Not only do they just sell bubble wrap, but they also have these things called instant packs, which are pretty awesome. And I think they have like some sample packs of those, and they have all kinds of different sizes. And I just, what I love is if there's ever an issue, you guys can always DM me. And I mean, I can talk to the owner within moments, right? And that's what I love about, homegrown businesses. Like this is, it's not like Amazon where like, how do I get a hold of someone? Mm-hmm. Like there's somebody out there, right? And you can probably call customer service and get a hold of somebody that's going to help you out. And I know, that they take care of everyone. So just, hey, AmericanBubbleBoy.com, go to link below and use our promo code Pure Hustle Podcast.
All one word, all lowercase.
All right. Also, social media. If you haven't been following us on social media, we are Pure Hustle Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Make sure you catch us on Instagram. There's all kinds of things that are happening on there that sometimes we don't get to on a YouTube video. We don't even discuss on the podcast. I just had a recent haul and some people were able to actually buy some of the stuff and again, I don't run the Instagram to market to people to sell the stuff. You guys know I never go like this is for sale. Just people hit me up. So you never know what cool, interesting things Mike and I are going to come across. We are appreciative of every single one of you. I just want to throw this out there. Here's the thing. And on Instagram, how there's primary in general on the DMs. Mm-hmm. And we get a lot of you that comment, like send us DMs and it ends up in the general. And that doesn't pop up for us. It doesn't show up. So sometimes you'll see me, I'll get back to somebody like a month later. And I'm like, sometimes 2 months, 3 months. Like, I'm so sorry. And it's because you're not in the initial one. So once I message one time, DM one time, then you end up in that primary. And anytime after that, you want to get a hold of us, you can. So please know we're working through that. I always say this, like, we're full-time resellers. And so I'm full-time, but you get what I'm saying. We're both reselling is what we do. The podcast, you know, we record every once in a while, we record every week, but we spend way more time doing reselling, right? If we were YouTubers, which would be nice, we'd probably have more time to get back to everyone. But please know we appreciate every single one of you, and we're always trying to get back to you. And thank you always. Every day we get comments like, love the podcast, love you guys. You guys are great. Thanks for the information. So thank you for all your support. You can also find us on Twitter and Clubhouse. We are PureSoCast, and leave us a phone number, leave us a phone number, leave us a call. Voicemail 619-738-1170, 619-738-1170, or shoot us an email, puresopodcast@gmail.com. It's puresopodcast@gmail.com. And also, one of the best ways, 2 ways to support us is if you're listening to the podcast and you haven't jumped over to YouTube, we're almost to 6K subscribers on YouTube. So if you can jump on over, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, hit that bell notification, that would greatly help us. And if you go to iTunes and leave us a review, that always helps in the algorithm and pushes up our podcast above others. So thank you so much for your support.
Yeah.
We got a lot.
Boats are stuck in harbors. Money is not as valuable, but we are hustlers and we keep on hustling. And that's what's happening right now. We're going to talk about it. Breaking news. Orlando, take it away.
I feel we're like a cable news network, what we're going to talk about today right now, but it is affecting us as resellers. That's the thing. You know, it's funny. It was easy to see a lot of these issues already happening, you know, like a year ago. And again, I keep saying this, like, regardless of who's in the White House, this stuff has been going on for a year and a half. I'm so at a loss as to why we're surprised. You know, we had supply chain issues this time last year, right? But we're having it again, right? And I know we can make all kinds of reasons, but the reality is this is the era we live in right now, right? So I bring this up. You know, you guys have been watching the news. The current president, Joe Biden, had stated the fact that he gave a speech about that now the ports in LA are going to be open 24 hours a day.
Which they need to be, because I saw something, it was like an aerial footage shot of it. And I don't know.
So crazy.
I don't know if it was 500,000 shipping containers or 500,000 ships. I don't know. It's a lot of things stuck, waiting to get in, right? And that takes time. Like, a ship arrives, it's not like it just arrives and like you unpack it really quick, like you unpack a truck, right? Like, they've got to get cranes to get these shipping containers off. They got to get it on the right trucks, and then they got to refuel the boat, get the boat. Like, this is a time-consuming process. And I know in the East Coast there was one harbor that was having like a strike issue where the employees were striking, and I'm worried. Like, even something like this is a good move, opening up the ports for like 24 hours and the things they're trying to do. But again, are they going to be able to make sure that they're staffed enough, that they're taking care of their employees enough, where the employees aren't going to get burned out or decide to strike? Because can you imagine a big strike in the LA port? Like, it'd be devastating.
Yeah, and so I don't. And so the reason I bring this up as resellers, this can affect us for the positive and for the negative, right? On the positive end, if you have a great amount of inventory of new toys or new clothing or items that people want for Christmas, like, you're going to be selling like gangbusters. It's going to be an amazing time, I think. And I'll share with you in a little bit, because you're like, Orlando, isn't the economy kind of weird? Inflation's high, and you know, we may be hitting stagflation and you know, anyways, I feel like we're a news channel right now, but this is affecting us. And you know, there's a positive side that it could be good. Now, there's the other side is, let's say this works out, right? Let's say, which I don't anticipate it working out. I think we're still going to be in a mess. But come early December and all the store shelves are like jam-packed stocked with inventory, like, that could be kind of interesting. So my game plan is I'm selling now. If people are buying my stuff now, I'm selling now. I'm not waiting out to get a little bit more. I'm not hoping that, you know, prices will keep rising as things become scarce. I'm just going to sell now, because what I know is now. right? I know that right now people are buying, and it's going to be an interesting thing.
And you might kick yourself, in the butt later for that decision, but I'm a big believer in you've got to make the best decision given what you know right now, right?
100%.
And so, like, we were kind of playing around with Dogecoin when that whole thing was happening. What was it, earlier this year, like the beginning of this year, and I threw some money in there, made a few $100 and pulled out, and I'm like, I don't really believe in Dogecoin, but it was just a fun little thing to do for fun. But then when it shot up, again, I did the math, and I'm like, geez, I'd have like tens of thousands of dollars profit that I could have made off that. But I know I made the right decision for my family, given the information I had, right? And so I think the same thing with selling now. Like, do you want to take the gamble that these shipments won't get resolved? And like you said, there'll be an overstock of stuff,
or you won't be able to find any inventory. Like, it gets jammed and it gets even worse.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have nothing to sell. Right. So I agree. Now, it's interesting. I look at some of the quotes here. This is from the New York Times. I'm trying to see who said this. Someone said this: in order to be a globally competitive, we need to improve our capacity to make things here in America while also moving finished products across the country and around the world. The Home Depot and Target also committed to moving more products at night to help ease congestion. So what I'm finding is that these businesses are doing stuff on the side to get their inventory. The other day I was at Costco, and we're having a toilet paper shortage at our Costco's here in San Diego. And man, I had to go to Costco 3 days in a row to get toilet paper. We made it. We're back to Charmin though. Remember we talked about that before. The Kirkland's good, but the Charmin, like, you're living like a king.
That's right.
Right. So I was talking to the manager there, and they're telling me that Costco's buying like their own containers, like they're using their own chips, like they're trying to do whatever they can to get their inventory over. Right. So it's going to be interesting. Now let's play that along with inflation. So, Mike and I have been saying this from day one, like, inflation's coming, and we're not economic analysts. It's funny. Somebody had commented at some time, like, how do you guys know inflation's going to keep getting worse when all these experts are saying that it's transitory? And I'm like, it's not that those guys don't know what they're talking about. I just know when I go and get my McChicken's cost me $2.59, where it was $1 like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I know it's simplistic, but everything's way more expensive.
Yeah. Everything keeps going up. Prices continue to go up. And, you can't deny it. I mean, we're seeing it with everything. I mean, we're paying $4.40 for a gallon of gas. I mean, food is going up, and there's a lot of things involved in it too. So there's so much. I mean, again, we can't cover everything, but recognizing that, we got to figure out as resellers, how do we make this work to our advantage, and how do we avoid the pit traps that can be involved with inflation coming? And, are you raising your prices to meet the new demand and the cost of living that you're going to have to cover? Is raising your prices too much too soon going to scare buyers away? If you don't, like, there is a tight rope you got to walk, right? You've got to figure out the right decision to make at the right time to make sure that you're still able to pay your bills, to buy the food you need to buy, to buy the things you need to buy, while also realizing, hey, maybe, and again, not financial advice. We're not saying like go out and take out loans. And we're really opposed in a lot of ways. I mean, maybe me more than Orlando in some ways, but I'm really opposed to really having any kind of debt if you can help it. But if you see the way things are going, and in a lot of ways, you can actually leverage inflation to your advantage if you take out a loan, right? Because money today is worth more than money tomorrow. So if you get the money today and 10 years from now, you're paying back a business loan that, if the average cost, somebody who was making $40,000 a year is now making $80,000 a year because of inflation. Well, your loan now is basically nothing. You're paying pennies.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And I have been leveraging a lot more credit now, just because I know I'm going to be paying less back in a year, right? Unless we end a story, in a place of deflation, which I don't know. But here's the other thing. So I've always been worried, like, okay, we're in this place, people aren't working. Well, that's what we're hearing, right? People aren't working. Like the last jobs report, it was supposed to be like 500,000 new jobs. And it was like 195,000, like horrible. And, are people going to have the money to buy stuff? But here's the thing, they are. And how do you know that? Okay. The stock market should be devastated right now. Like, things should be bad. Tech stock. Anyways, we can get into all that. Like, people shouldn't be able to have money to invest in crypto. But people have a lot of money now. Like, we're at the largest rate of people having money in their savings right now than we've had in years. Why? Well, we've had the stimulus checks. We have the child tax credit, right? That people are getting every month. They're getting, was it 300 per kid or something like that? Right. And so there's a lot of money right now that's not in the economy. It's just sitting. It's sitting in people's bank accounts. It's sitting in crypto. It's sitting in stocks. It's not being spent. So I think there's still going to be the opportunity to sell a lot of items for good money because there's a lot of money out there for people to spend. And I think this Q4 could be far better than even last year's Q4 if this perfect storm plays out where we have, logjam at the ports, scarcity of inventory, shipping issues with Amazon and maybe eBay. You'll be able to take advantage of that. And then there's this money in the economy, and who knows? And we can get into like interest rates and tapering and all that, but I don't want to get into all that. All I'm saying is everything's looking good for this Q4. I think even if we have a crash, which we should have had a crash by now, I would have thought by now. But anyways, that's not our show. We're not here about that. So anyways, all right. I found this other thing interesting. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your thoughts. Would you like us to talk more about this stuff? I'm always interested. I'm not an expert, but I do research a lot. All right. I thought this was pretty cool. Shout out to Rally Roots for doing this. I didn't want to spend my own money, so I'm glad they did. So they did a video. You can check it out on YouTube. They actually did the pay-per-click. So they ran a few things on promoted listings standard, which is the regular promoted listings. And I think they spent like $300 and they made $4,000, right? Because of promoted listings. Now, doesn't mean that that's directly correlated, right? Maybe those items would have sold anyways.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard with a study like that because it's not a double blind study with the exact same items, the exact same listings. And you know what I mean? Like, but it does give you at least some data to work with.
Yeah. And so then they ran it for like 3 weeks of pay-per-click. So they got like 2,000 clicks on a certain shirt or something. So in the end, they spent, my numbers may be off. You have to watch the video. I think they spent $245 on pay-per-click, and they ended up selling one item for $189.
Yeah, you could definitely lose some money.
So this goes back to what we were saying weeks ago, where I don't think for the secondary market and what Mike and I do and what many of you that listen to our podcast do, that pay-per-click is for us. We sell unique items. We sell one-offs. I don't think it's going to put us in an advantage. Now, if you're doing retail arbitrages Q4 on eBay, it may be worth it, but you got to be careful because, man, you could lose a lot of money.
The one nice thing, and again, it's not a great thing, but it is a thing, is, it is a marketing expense. It is tax write-off, right? So, of course, you want to have as much net profit as you can. But if you run the experiment and you end up, spending a little bit on pay-per-click, you can almost kind of consider it like, hey, I paid for this marketing campaign. Maybe it didn't pay out, but at least I can mark it off on my taxes.
Yeah, true. But seriously, you can lose a lot of money. And Amazon's been doing it for a while. And I did pay-per-click on Amazon for a while. And I just, even with the items I was selling, it was really tough to compete with other people. I just waited for the buy box. All right. Amazon handling time. So those of you that are going to be selling on Amazon during Q4, I thought this was pretty awesome. Maybe you might find it. So Amazon has this thing that it will automatically adjust your handling time if you cannot ship out items in time. Now, it's not going to do it arbitrarily and like your time's going to just, but you can do that. So let me read what it says. Customers love to get their products faster, which means that offering them shorter delivery promises typically lead to more sales. Your delivery promise to customers is some of your handling time to prepare packages and the shipping time. So sell your limits with order handling capacity. This feature helps you set a limit for how many orders you can handle. As soon as you get one more order than your limit, every additional order will have one additional day of handling time, which will not be considered a late shipment. Right? So let's say, I've had those crazy times in Q4 where I have like 80 packages. I think one time I had 130. I don't know what, it was obnoxious. And I did not sleep that night. I did merchant fulfilled and I packed them all and it was brutal. But what I would have given if I had this like 100 limit and then all the other 30 just got kicked into another day handling time and it wouldn't have been late. Like it would have been so much nicer.
That is true. But the other thing we've talked about, if you
counterpoint.
If you give yourself 4 hours to do a task, it'll take 4 hours. You you give yourself 24 hours, it'll take 24 hours, right? So there is the side of you got to get it done anyways, but you certainly can run up to your limit, and it's helpful that they're giving you that option. I think that's nice. I can't imagine it would not hurt you to an extent in the algorithm, though. I mean, it might not hurt you.
I'm
like,
just throwing it out there.
but
There are some people that are okay. I personally, I wouldn't. I would just do them all. It wouldn't matter how much time, but it all depends. You have a newborn.
Yeah, you got 11-week-old at home. Yeah,
you got a lot going on. Like sometimes you can't handle it. So I thought that was a great option. You should have got an email in your inbox if you saw it on Amazon. If you didn't, you just go to your shipping settings and it's in there for you to be able to adjust that. Okay, one last Q4 thing, and then we're done with our reseller topics here. So I thought this was interesting. There's a belief that Q4 is going to go past December because of all the delays, which I kind of find kind of interesting. Like, I don't know if people are still like, some people are like diehard Christmas, right? You can't do anything that's non-Christmas. You can't do anything Christmas when it's not Christmas anymore, right? I love having Christmas all the way through like January, right? But not that I celebrate it. I just like having my Christmas tree up for a while. So when do you take your Christmas tree down?
like the day after.
Okay, see, I'm more of like, I like it till the end of January.
I mean, at least by the end of like by the time the New Year's comes around, man, you've got to be ready for the new year.
Okay.
You can't be living in the past, man. You got to move forward in life.
But Chris is I could live in the past. So I thought there was some interesting quotes. So this is a story from CNBC. It's titled "Toy Makers Warn Delays in Stocking Retail Shelves Could Create a 4-Month Holiday Hangover." And in here, they had mentioned the idea that certain companies are doing everything they can. I had mentioned before, Home Depot, Costco contract dedicated container ships to expedite their large orders. Larger companies also have the cash to place orders well in advance when items are needed. Hasbro and Mattel didn't respond to requests for the story, but executives have stressed the big toy companies are better equipped to handle these challenges. So some things may be in stock. The other things that I thought was interesting was, we had mentioned, are people still going to buy and so on, and what's going to happen. And they had mentioned that, there's going to be the grandparents out there that they're going to want a gift no matter what. So they're going to pay a certain price, right? Whatever, because all these toy makers are saying that their price is going to be higher, right? LOL themselves, which I don't sell LOL over Christmas, but they're saying that all their stuff is going to go up in price, but guarantee they're going to sell high. Now,
this is like inflation.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, man. Any crisis is an opportunity for people to take advantage of things.
Well, and some of it's taken advantage of, and some of it's just the reality. Like if you have to order extra trucks to help make the deliveries and to make sure you've got your own people at the docks to get things off of boats and to get them to the stores faster, and you're paying your expenses do go up. Like those expenses get passed on to the consumer. Like they have to. The company is not going to continue to take huge loss. I mean, they will to an extent in order to keep their name up, their reputation, but eventually as cost goes up, their real costs that they have in order to get items to stores, it makes sense that prices go up too. You can't blame them.
Yeah. I just think about, have you ever gone, how many places have open restrooms anymore? Yeah. Right. Due to COVID, our restrooms are closed. Right. And it's like, what? I mean, I remember after 9/11, like before 9/11, those of you that are super young, you can go on an airplane and they would give you like a meal and you wouldn't even have to pay for it. Like you would have a lunch, you'd have dinner, like you'd have more leg room. I mean, there were so many perks and that all went away, gone. Like, and I find with what's happened recently, like, you go to the movies and there's, all the prices have gone up and you can't do this. It's just, anyways, I can go enough for ranting. All right. This line was pretty interesting here. Industry analysts said, there isn't a singular must-have holiday toy this year. Instead, they foresee consumers gravitating toward items that were most loved during lockdown. So maybe that's the BOLO, right? I mean, we're going to give BOLOs, but I've been trying to find a hot toy. I haven't found anything. I found hot toys, like plural, like things that sell quick. But, there isn't like the fingerling. But sometimes I feel like those often don't come until closer to Christmas, though. When this it becomes the hot toy because stores are out and the demand is there. So we might not know until people are shopping in December or after Black Friday, and they're looking for maybe something that you might not consider hot, for instance, because it's super trendy. But if there's a demand for it and it's not there, all of a sudden that is a hot toy. But I think what they're saying is due to the shortages, people are just going to go to what they know, right? So whether that be video games, which was huge. I don't think puzzles are going to be huge, but maybe that means puzzles. I don't know. Whatever was huge. I mean, last year, I made probably 90% of my money from one item during Q4. And I made a ton with that one item. Is it going to happen like that? I would love it because it made my life easy. But it may be the year where, you know, there's going to be a wide plethora of things you're going to have to find a source if you're doing toys in Q4 because there's going to be scarcity. So it's not going to be like you like my goal is always go into there's 3 or 5 items that I pick up and that's all I'm going to sell all Q4. Now I may be 10 or 15. Who knows? You know, but I see your point. There is some of that where, you know, you don't really find out till later, but we'll see what happens. All right. Those are our reseller topics. All right. But before we move on, there's one item that is available to all of you that need a clean dome.
Yeah. Skull Shaver is an incredible product. I actually accidentally slept in, so my alarm went off, and I turned it off.
What do you mean? You woke up at 5 or something?
No. So some days I don't wake up early enough to work out if I got like a church thing or something late at night. So like the next day I don't work out. So I'm like I sleep in till 5, and my alarm went off at 5 instead of 3:45, and I turned it off and just closed my eyes, and next thing you know, my wife's waking me up. It's 6 o'clock. So I jump out of bed because I normally leave the house at 6:15. And so I'm like, all right, I've got 15 minutes to like get ready and go. And then I look at the clock and it's 6:11. And I'm like, it's not 6, it's 6:11, right? So I'm freaking out and I'm trying to get ready. I literally grabbed my Skull Shaver, threw it in my bag. And as I'm driving to work, I'm hitting my head with the Skull Shaver, and I got to work and nobody would have known that I didn't have time to shave and get all nice and pretty for the day. It just happened in the car and it was easy and it was effective. Skull Shaver has been a life changer for me. So if you haven't tried Skull Shaver yet, give it a shot. I can do it without worrying about nicking myself. It's super fast and the charge lasts forever. Just try it. Go to skullshaver.com, promo code PURE, PURE, and you'll Christmas time, right? Like if you're a balded beauty like us, you might, you know, tell your significant other or your mom or your grandma or whoever, like, hey, get me a Skull Shaver. And if maybe you're the one that's married to somebody who either is bald or maybe needs to kind of shave it all the way down, get them a Skull Shaver. You're not going to regret it. That is something you can get, and you don't have to worry about supply shortages. Hopefully. All right, it is time for what we love. Bolo.
What's your bolo?
Yeah, bolo time. What's your bolo?
All right, so I'm kind of timid sharing my bolo because I don't know it all. Right, but there's been some recent events that I'm like, you know, this is a good bolo to share because there are some people that are collectors of Hot Wheels that know their Hot Wheels. So I'm sure people will have plenty to say in the comments, but I didn't know how much money there was in Hot Wheels. Like I knew there was. I remember when I worked undercover security for Target in the morning, man, those Hot Wheel guys, bro, they were at the door and they were just like, they'd run to the shelves and they're like looking through all of them. And I'm like, what is going on? But I never understood. I never learned. So if you caught the YouTube video I dropped, I had a major Hot Wheels haul that I picked up. All these vintage Hot Wheels. And one of the first pieces that sold was it was a Hot Wheels, but it was a Redline Club car that sold. Right. And I didn't know. I saw when I was looking up comps on eBay, I kept seeing RLC. Now I know some of you are like, Orlando, how do you know that? That's okay. I'm sure there's plenty that didn't know that. I didn't know. I always wondered what it was. And maybe I should have known. I know people post on social media sometimes about them, and maybe I wasn't paying attention.
It just wasn't a niche you were in.
It just wasn't. And this item, it was a huge haul, and I maybe paid, I don't know, $5 to $10 for it. It was sealed, and within hours, it sold for $150.
Nice.
And I'm like, maybe there's something to that RLC. I know I sound so ignorant saying that. So I looked it up, and so there's some things that came across. Now, at the same time, I was at home doing some organization, and I put on some Craigslist Hunter, and Pete had this major haul, and he was going through the haul, and he pulled out these 2 Redline Hot Wheels. And just recently, I'm talking about Hot Wheels, like in the little package, the one car, and the car was actually like upside down in the package. He sold one of them for it went on auction. He sold it for like 6,900 something. Wow. And I'm like, what is going on? And so what I love about this haul that I had, I love the profit I'm going to make. Don't get me wrong, but I love how much I'm learning. Like that's part of it. I paid, over $1,000 for nice profit and an education in Hot Wheels. And so what I learned is this, and a lot of you are going to be like old news, but hey, I'm just trying to help everybody out. So there's a certain line of Hot Wheel cars from the beginning of production called Redline Hot Wheels, and they may have a red line on the tires. Now, it's not always, because I think in 1978 they stopped doing that, and then they came back. I'm not 100% sure. You'll have to research that on your own. But Hot Wheel cars from 1968 to 1977 are super collectible, like within those years, and because they're the red line cars. So if you find those, do your research on eBay, but maybe go to a Facebook group or do some, I went to some collector sites and I was looking at what they had, and there's guys out there that they have a website. They're just like, I buy these cars. I'm looking for these cars. Contact me. Right. So maybe you'll be able to do a transaction off of eBay and save yourself some bucks. And I was like, that's pretty awesome. And then there's another thing that is the Redline Club, I believe. And if I'm wrong, please let me know. I'm always willing to be wrong. Let me know in the comments. Redline Club that started in the early 2000s, where you can get memberships. Like you sign up, and I guess every once in a while you get the exclusive vehicle or the exclusive car that they're giving out. Now, it has not been super exclusive as it used to be, because I think this last year they opened it up and now it's like unlimited memberships, where I think before it was harder to get into the club. And so if you have older Redline Club stuff from mine was from like early 2000s. If you have older Redline Club cars from the early 2000s, those are more limited and more exclusive, which means they're more valuable, right? So keep an eye for both. It wouldn't hurt you to just spend half an hour. If you go to garage sales and go to thrift stores or whatever, you're trying to do local deals, it wouldn't hurt you just spend a half hour, Google those two, look at what you're looking for, and then you'll have a better idea. Because I can tell you how many times I go to garage sales and I just won't look at Hot Wheels. Like I'll see them there, and because I'm just thinking, it's like $1 car that I'll flip for $2. Like I'm not going to spend that much money, but yeah, definitely there's some good profits out there. So yeah, that's my bolo.
Nice niche to get into for sure. So mine, this one's maybe a little weird. So I had a haul a while back, one of the garage sales. I did a YouTube video for it. I picked up a bunch of camel and Marlboro hats, and a lot of them were like vintage, and they were from like back in the day when smoking was like still a thing people did a lot more, right? There were like clubs you can get in, and you could like send in kind of like the send in proof of purchase,
like the Hot Wheels club kind of.
Yeah, no, but like you send in proof of purchase, like like on a cereal box, and like if you got enough of them, then you'd get like they would send you stuff.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting thing for sure. So definitely not like promoting like, hey, you should start smoking, kids. Like that's not what I'm saying, but there's a lot of people. What I found interesting is I'm selling a lot of these hats and for really good money. And so then I'm like, oh, maybe I'll check OfferUp, see if there's other things. And I've noticed that there's people are buying like camel and Marlboro jackets, hats, bags, various things. And one of the things you notice is kind of sought after too is from a smoke-free home. Right. So people are, it's a weird thing to think like
smokers want stuff, or maybe it's not smokers.
Well, and that's the thing is there's almost like that vintage feel to it of like, I remember like my grandpa or my dad was in this club and they used to get stuff. And so it'd be cool to like have like a jacket that's like, it reminds me, or maybe like an ex-smoker, but like I had this cool jacket that I loved and it was camel, or, so again, not saying I support the companies or anything like that or support smoking, but there is a niche of people who are interested in it.
Pushed off to the side.
People are interested in these things, and some of them are relatively collectible. And like anything else,
no offense to anybody that smokes, by the way.
No, not saying
that's your call.
Yeah, but it's definitely waned in popularity, right? Like it used to be much more common and something, and then
you used to be able to smoke on airplanes.
Yeah, now there's a lot more regulations, and it's definitely like. Then like vaping kind of became kind of the cool trendy thing. And I feel like that's kind of going out of fashion now too. So because now it's not a trendy thing, and because legally these companies can't sell that kind of stuff anymore, right? Like they can't market in that way.
Yeah.
That literally means like the things that are made from that era, like those companies can't make that stuff anymore. They can't sell that stuff anymore in the same way that they used to.
Yeah.
Like that makes it, I mean, what other companies have those kinds of regulations where you can't, and I mean, I don't know all the laws. I mean, maybe they can sell hats and stuff, but I doubt they're able to sell merchandise, or at least offer merchandise as like rewards and things like they used to. So that means that was a time in history that can never be repeated. And that makes it unique and valuable. And again, you got to be careful because some of the things, it's like there were tens of thousands of these hats made. None of them are worth anything.
But
and some of
trendy.
them are. Right.
It's trendy. Like I see people on TikTok, the youngsters wearing this. Like they don't smoke, but it's like cool to have a Marlboro jacket or something.
Yeah. I mean, and even like things that you saw on TV, right? Like you watch old 90s TV shows and you see people, one, smoking more, and two, they might have these things, these hats, these bags, whatever. And so you can almost go back. It's almost like retro McDonald's.
Even
toys,
Donald Duck was smoking back in the day.
Oh yeah, man.
Goofy, all those.
And that's the thing. I'd honestly rather my son watch some of those older TV shows where cartoons were smoking than some of the newer cartoons.
Can we quote you on that one?
No, absolutely. Like I
agree.
I watch some of the newer cartoons that don't have smoking, but they've got things in there that I'm like, I would never want my son to watch this stuff, right? Like I feel like it's way more damaging. It's so.
We're not that kind of podcast, but yeah, I agree with you. Like, but it's just funny, the stuff. Like, anyways, I don't want to get into it, but if you were to watch those Disney cartoons, outside of the cultural and all that, Disney now has disclaimers on all those stuff. But some of the stuff that like people like those cartoon characters go through, it's like insane. Like it's crazy. All right, hey, wow, we went on a rabbit trail there. All right, what do you? Hey, let me talk about what I'm looking forward to. So. I think I'm going to go sourcing garage sales a few more times. I want to get more inventory. I think right now it's been good. Like I've had consistent weeks of just solid pickups. And so I want to make sure that I'm sourcing enough so I don't have to source as much in October and November and December. And then I'm actually going to start tomorrow after this podcast drops. Actually, no, when this podcast drops, I'm going to be on the road already sourcing for Amazon. So I have a concert I'm going to with my son, and the joy of my son when he hears that we're going to be sourcing all the way up to the concert. But it's okay because it's on the way.
That's right. So, yeah, same for me. I'm looking forward to garage sales. I'm hoping to hit them up this weekend. I've got a really couple of busy weeks coming up. I've got some school events going on, some other events I'm going to. So it makes it challenging because I'm already giving up so much family time for those things, those other commitments I have to do. But I'd love to get to some garage sales. Just to poke around, it's an exciting thing to do. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Hopefully a YouTube video to follow.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. And, I got to tell you, I do think the garage sale season is going to go even a little bit longer than usual. Just because people weren't able to get all their stuff out.
Yeah, they're trying to make room for Christmas.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. So, anyways, hopefully everything we talked about today was helpful to you, or at least entertained, or maybe both. And with that being said, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling. Peace.